Hello, this is our Week 8 Group Work Notes Plan assignment for Unit 4.1. First, I'm going to be grouping the subjects and concepts in Unit 4 and then giving the scenario briefing, so we have an update on that. Then Scott is going to talk about some of the concepts involved with the check-in process. Michael is going to run us through filling out the ICS form and how that works. And then Parker is going to finish us off by discussing the information that's missing and use it to finish that 211 form. So Unit 4 is about the check-in process at the incident site and the use of the ICS form 211 in that process. This is done in order to maintain the status of all the assigned resources of the incident. In emergency situations, recording resources is critical. The emergency management team needs to have a system and continue refining it as they go along. The resource unit is responsible for overseeing the check-in of all resources, maintaining status keeping systems of all resources, maintaining a master list of all of them, and assembling the IAP. Status or check-in recorder personnel need to collect that info as people are arriving on the site. So they'll be filling out that 211 form and or recording resource statuses on key cards, depending on where they are. So these are the people who are physically writing everything down. Check-in consists of recording specific information that is recorded on ICS Form 211 into the check-in list. Personnel and equipment arriving at the site have to check in at various incident locations. Since check-in might be at several locations, you have to have those check-in recorder people established at every location, and you have to have signs posted around so that people know where to find them and how to get there, and so that you don't have resources entering without knowing about it. During check-in, we will determine the method and the frequency of each resource, monitor activity, and provide for any personal or material needs at the time. Emergency managers must also be aware of possibilities of pitfalls like not having enough recorders or having too large a span of control. And additionally, they need to always keep the logistics section informed about what resources are being checked in and what's going on. Now I'm just going to give a brief update on our scenario. At 0400 hours on Monday, August 13th, a freight train at the Great Atlantic and Pacific Railroad line derailed near the Roaring River in the state of Columbia. 10 of the train cars have derailed, and one of those is gasoline, and there's another one that has liquefied vinyl chloride in it. Both of those two cars have taken some damage in the derailment. The gasoline car has ruptured and is sinking really fast, about 20 gallons of gas per minute. The spilled gas is now traveling downhill and has made contact with the river. The vinyl chloride car was punctured as well, and that chloride vapors are escaping into the air of the surrounding area. The first responders from Central City Fire and police departments are available doors and take action as fast as quickly as possible. They close off the surrounding roads in order to keep the public away from the spill, and additional resources from the fire department arrived shortly after that to start extinguishing any flames. Next, the Central City Hazmat team arrives and requests additional assistance from the regional team and the state. The engines establish a water supply and operate water streams away from the spill in order to disperse those chloride vapors. And the Unified Command requested a regional foam response. After that, the Great Atlantic and Pacific Railroad representatives for that railway arrive on the site at 0500 hours, and they arrange to bring in a contractor from Apple Valley to boom the stream and create a dike to combine the leaking gasoline, and they also bring in vacuum equipment to recover some of that spilled fuel. It was also decided that we need to begin evacuating everyone within a half-mile radius of the derailment and take those residents to a local relocation center nearby the spill. Regional fire and police and hazardous material resources are also required. Air monitoring in the vicinity at downwind locations have begun. An additional contractor is requesting to set up an air sampling network and water sampling along the Roaring River to kind of assess what's happening visually in those spots. The railroad contractor from Apple Valley arrives on scene at approximately 07:45 with a backhoe and a front end loader, 2 booms with operators, and a hazmat crew. They also bring in a crane to move the undamaged rail cars to hold those of the weapon. And the emergency are activated and the county POCs are opened up to support that incident. The current conditions at this point are 78 degrees Fahrenheit with a high of 84. Winds are out of the northwest at 8 miles per hour with a relative humidity of 66%, so it's not crazy windy yet. At this point, we need to go through the check-in process and fill out those ICF 211 forms using the 201 that's given to us by the planning section sheet, and also using any other information that we can find by just exploring the incident site and talking to the people there. We need to look at all the resources that are currently at the site so that everything is accounted for and we know what we might still need in order to continue responding to development. After the briefing, now Scott is going to talk about some of the concepts involved with the check-in process at the site.
All right, thank you, Brooke. Like Brooke said, I'm going to talk about some of the check-in concepts that apply to this particular scenario. Check-in is critical in the incident command structure. The check-in function, as we talked about in class last week, it falls under the resource unit leader, which is under the planning section. That's part of the incident command structure. So it's critical. Check-in is critical to the success of a response to a disaster. Some of the terms I want to talk about, the concepts, check-in location. If possible, you want to have a check-in station near the flow of traffic. You don't want to have a check-in station that obstructs the traffic, that impedes the traffic of the people going to the disaster area. You don't want to have a check-in location that's near like a busy road or an airport because it might be hard to hear people. But also you want to be flexible where you locate a check-in location. Typically they're located near the incident, but it may necessitate being away from the incident, like in our particular scenario with the train derailment. You don't want to be downwind in the downwind area of like gas exposure. So the check-in location is key. That's a key concept. The check-in recorder, this is the person that, like it says, records the information. They're logging it like on a form that we're going to talk about later on. That could be manually, that could be electronically. So the check-in recorder is an important term to understand. This person captures information. They're kind of like an accounting type. The other term or concept that's going to be talked about more in detail later on in our presentation is the ICS Form 211. This is the Incident Command Structure Form 211, and it's specifically intended for check-in, a list of the check-in. And this form, the concept behind this form is purely accountability. It's accounting for the resources that are coming to respond to a disaster. Also, it can be used for demobilization efforts. So those are some of the concepts behind the form. Michael's going to talk about something called resource typing. This is another key term or concept of in a check-in function, and this is basically how resources are specifically described or classified. It's how they're defined. Like as an example, a John Deere tractor D60 might be a different size from a John Deere tractor D6, so it's very specific, and there's a website FEMA has for this. So resource typing is an important concept to understand at the check-in function. The methods and frequency at which reporting is done in the check-in area for information. In the old days, I guess they ran back and forth, running paper back and forth. But these days, with computers and electronic connections, people might be doing that electronically via email or even some other means. If there is no electronic communication, they may be resorting to pieces of paper or scratch paper or whatever, that they're writing on. Could also be via cell phone or telephone if there's not a lot of information, to convey. The frequency of reporting too, that's an important concept that's being dealt with in a check-in location. If it's hourly, daily, or some other frequency. The pitfalls, or avoiding some of the pitfalls in a check-in location, it's a real important concept to avoid some of the mistakes that may be commonly made or happen in a check-in location. There might not be enough people to help, and that could be seen with long lines. The check-in location might not be efficient. People aren't knowing what they're supposed to be doing in that check-in location. Communications are key too, and this is probably the training and rehearsing for the folks involved in a check-in location, so that they understand and how the communications work very clearly. Hopefully the people that work there too, they have enough space, and they have what they need to do the check-in functions. If they're doing electronically, a laptop that works, that's not dead, or if it's handwriting in paper, pens and paper. So it's making sure they have those people have the resources they need at a check-in location. And another key point too in a check-in location to be careful of, sometimes some of the resources that are being checked in, they might not be necessarily what was ordered, what somebody wanted. So it's very important to log specifically what's been received, so that the responders on the scene are getting it. If somebody can figure out and see that exactly what was ordered is not being received, like that John Deere tractor or whatever example is not the specific John Deere tractor that was ordered, and it could really make a big difference, then the responders might be caught in a real bind. It could cause delay. So it's important that the check-in people, at that check-in area, understand that what's being received and logged might not be what's been asked for, but they need to log in what's been actually received. So those are some of the key concepts. Michael later on is going to talk about completing the Form 211. I just briefly touched upon that. So I'm going to turn it back over to our moderator, Brooke.
Next, Michael is going to talk about how to fill in that form.
Yes, hello. Let me just take a second to screen share real quick. So I'm going to show you the Form 211. Can you all see this okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.